God bless. My name is Daniel Martinez. On the mic, I go by NEZ. Now, before I started sharing my testimony, I prayed that God would use my struggles, my weaknesses, and all the poor choices that I made as a teenager to be an example of before and after surrendering my life to Christ. I grew up in a Christian home with both parents very involved with the church, very encouraging, very loving, and hardworking, and two brothers and a sister that were always there for me. So as a kid, all I really remember is living in a happy home. At age 13, my family and I went through one of the most painful, horrible times in our lives when my father passed away from asthma. My mom and dad were on a bus ride to Mexico to see a doctor for his asthma, and he ends up getting an attack on the bus in the middle of nowhere, and before anyone could help him, at only 49 years old, my father takes his last breath in my mother's arms. And I still can't imagine how my mom felt that day, but when we got the news, it was pretty much the worst day of our life. And even though my father's death took a huge toll on all of us, we were very thankful that we still had a mom that was very strong to help us get through that pain. But most importantly, knowing that my dad had accepted Christ many years ago as his personal Lord and Savior assured us that one day we would see him again in heaven. Now, because of my father's loss, I began working at an early age to help support my mom with some of the bills, and she started working as a janitor at the middle school. And my mom and I have always been really close and shared a lot together, you know what I mean? She always known all of my friends and supported us in everything that we were into. And the biggest thing that caught our attention was in any type of sport, it was the four elements of hip-hop, which is graffiti, breakdancing, MCing, and DJing. And I've always had a passion for music ever since I was real young. But when my friends and I got to middle school, we started off with the breakdancing. After seeing people do it and watching some old school movies on it, we were hooked big time. Soon we created our own crew called Dynamics and practiced day and night. And after winning a few local contests, we started to be well known around Houston, and we were invited to perform with some of the best crews around. It actually kept me focused and out of trouble for a very long time. But when the breakdancing started fading out towards our senior year, that's when everything started to change for the worse. My friends and I started DJing and partying and almost every weekend. And now that I was old enough to drive and get into clubs, I began drinking for the first time, and that quickly led me to try other things that I still regret to this day. And I know my family could see the changes in my attitude, my appearance, the music that I was now listening to, and the smoking and drinking on a regular basis. And even to me, that was a drastic change. And I remember many nights before I would go out, seeing my mom with tears running down her face, asking me if she could pray with me before leaving the house. And I know if I wasn't so messed up and selfish, I know I would have thought twice about the pain that I was putting my mom through. But because at the time I was so blinded and distant from God, I continued to hurt not only my mom, but also my brothers, my sister, and other family members by how deep my drug addiction was, and most shocking for them when they found out that I was also selling drugs. For a moment in my life, I thought I had everything I wanted, but it didn't take long for me to find out the consequences that came along with that lifestyle. I began to lose control of everything I had ever worked hard for. First, I lost my job, my car, my motorcycle, and top it off, I drained my entire savings account. This brought me to the lowest point of my life ever. I was so depressed, full of anger, in and out of jail, and trust me, even though I wasn't in my right mind, it felt horrible to have to call family members, especially my mom, to waste her time and money to come and bail me out. I guess at that moment I didn't want to believe that maybe God was trying to get my attention somehow, because all I really cared for at the time was myself. And around this time, my mom receives the news that my grandma was very ill, and she told me right away that she was going to have to leave Houston to take care of her. And now with the house to myself, you can imagine how crazier it got. I continued to live the same way for the whole entire time my mom was gone. and had no job, had no plans, no goals, no motivation. You could say I completely forgot about everything that my parents had taught me growing up. And what I didn't know was what my mom was doing throughout my entire struggle. Even though she was out of town taking care of my grandma, she faithfully believed and prayed while she attended my aunt and uncle's church down in the valley. And she would fill out prayer requests and had many friends and family members in prayer. And she recently told me that God had revealed to one of my aunts in prayer that God was protecting me back home, and soon her prayers would be answered. Around 5 years later, in 2005, was when God began to break through my life in a very powerful way. All the mess that I had made, all the pain that I had caused was soon going to finally come to an end. My wife and I were engaged at the time, and we had already been through so much together. I truly believe that God chose my wife for me because with her support and the amount of people praying for me throughout my struggle, God gave me the strength to completely give up the lifestyle of addiction that was so destructive to myself and those around me. That same year, my wife and I made the decision together to accept Christ into our lives. That we were baptized together and got married all within the same year. And soon after making the decision, my wife and I have seen so many blessings come our way and opportunities to be a blessing to others. He has given us a strong marriage. He has blessed us with our beautiful son Elijah and a precious baby girl on the way, which was another miracle. And you could say he completely turned my life around for the best. And I truly thank God for saving me and giving me a second chance at life, because I know for sure that by now I'll either be dead or in prison. And even though I can't take back anything that I did back then, God has made me a healthy, drug-free, living testimony to stand here today and let you know that no matter what it is you're going through, no matter how big or small your situation is that is holding you back from a relationship with Christ, God has the power to restore, heal, and to use you by just surrendering your life to Him. So I pray that whoever hears my story will be impacted by the pains and sufferings that I caused myself and my family, that my experience of disaster would be enough to warn others of peer pressure, addiction, hustling, and hopefully seeing how much God has blessed me now will lead others to a relationship with Christ, to live a purpose-filled life.